In a galaxy torn apart by war, a 5-year-old human boy did what no soldier, no leader, no alien ever dared. He gave his only blanket to the enemy's freezing babies. What happened next didn't just change their lives. It ended a war. The twin moons of Narration 5 hung low over a city that no longer slept. Fires clawed at the night sky, painting everything in shades of red and sorrow. Buildings once full of laughter now stood like broken bones jutting from the earth. Amid the ruins, a small figure moved quietly, a 5-year-old boy named Eli. His boots were too big, scavenged from a fallen soldier. His blanket, frayed and smoke-stained, was wrapped tightly around his shoulders. It wasn't just fabric, it was the last thing his mother had touched before she vanished in the chaos. Every night he whispered to it as if it could whisper back. Eli had learned to survive the way only orphans of war do. Silently, swiftly, and without hope. He knew which streets still had food scraps, which corners echoed with danger, and which ruins the soldiers avoided. Tonight the air was colder than usual. The war had shifted south, but death still lingered here like smoke that never cleared. Then through the wind he heard it, a sound soft and trembling. A cry. At first he thought it was a wounded animal, but as he crept closer, stepping over shattered glass and twisted metal, the sound became clearer. It wasn't an animal. It was two babies. Under a collapsed hovercraft he found them. Blue-skinned, silver-eyed, wrapped in thin metallic cloths that barely shielded them from the cold. Lyrian infants, alien children, the very species his people blamed for everything. For a moment Eli froze. His heart pounded. He remembered the stories, that Lyrians could kill with a touch, that they ate humans, that they were monsters. But these weren't monsters. They were just crying. Helpless, he dropped his bag. Kneeling beside them, he removed his own blanket, the one thing keeping him warm. His small hands shook as he tucked it around their glowing forms. "It's okay," he whispered, though his voice cracked. "You can have it." Just for tonight, the twins quieted. Their eyes blinked up at him, reflecting the firelight like tiny stars. For the first time in months, Eli smiled, small, uncertain but real. Above, the city burned. But somewhere between the smoke and the silence, a human boy and 2 alien children found something the war had forgotten: kindness. The dawn came slowly over Narration 5, bleeding gold across the ruins. For a moment, the firelight looked almost gentle, as if the planet was trying to forget what it had lost. Far beyond the broken streets, Commander Anara Voss moved through the debris with 3 armored guards. Her elegant cloak was torn, her once silver hair matted with ash, but her eyes, bright and unyielding, searched every shadow. Somewhere in this dying city were her missing twins. "Lady Voss, the area isn't secure," warned her second-in-command, Sir Kor, scanning the horizon through the smoke. "Then secure it," she answered, her voice steady but low. "My children are out here." Her words left no room for argument. They had searched for hours when a faint reading flickered on Kor's scanner. 2 life signs, small, weak, and 1 human. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. A human presence this deep in Lyrian territory could only mean trouble. They followed the signal to a collapsed hovercraft. The smell of burned metal filled the air. Beneath a sheet of twisted armor they saw movement. A child, human, crouched protectively over 2 tiny bundles, wrapped in an old brown blanket. Anara froze. Her heart stuttered. The blue glow of her baby's skin flickered beneath that fabric. "Hold fire," she ordered sharply, as one guard lifted his weapon. She stepped closer, slow and deliberate. The human boy looked up at her, eyes wide with fear, but full of something else. Courage. They were cold, he said quietly. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. "So I gave them my blanket." The simplicity of it shattered something inside her. For days she had seen nothing but hate. Soldiers, bombs, orders. But here was a boy, no older than her twins would one day be, doing what no commander had dared, showing mercy. Anara knelt. Carefully, she took her children from his arms, holding them close, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. When she looked at him again, Her voice softened. "You saved them," he shrugged, uncertain. "They were just babies." In that instant, the line between enemy and ally blurred, replaced by something painfully, beautifully human. The journey back to the Lyrian shelter was silent, except for the low hum of the hover transport gliding over rubble. Inside, Eli sat between two guards, his small hands folded in his lap, eyes fixed on the strange symbols flickering across the metal walls. Every turn brought new sights, alien spires bent in half, streets glowing faintly with blue dust. The world that had once terrified him, now strangely beautiful. Anara sat opposite him, her twins cradled in her arms. They were sleeping now, their breaths shallow but steady. She couldn't stop glancing at the human boy, thin, pale, wearing clothes too large for his frame. How could someone so small survive in the ruins? "You're not afraid?" she asked softly. Eli shrugged, staring at his boots. "I used to be, but it doesn't help much." A faint smile touched her lips, honest, unpolished, human. When the transport landed, the soldiers stiffened. The shelter was deep underground, alive with murmurs and movement. Dozens of blue-skinned civilians turned as Anara entered, their leader carrying her children, and a human child. Conversations died instantly. One elder stepped forward, his voice edged with disbelief. "Lady Voss, what is this?" "This," she said firmly, resting a hand on Eli's shoulder, "is the reason my children are alive." The elder's eyes hardened. "He's the enemy." Eli flinched but didn't speak. The word enemy had become a shadow that followed him everywhere. Anara's voice sharpened. "He's a child," the crowd whispered, some fearful, some curious. Finally, she guided Eli to a small room lit by soft blue light. A cot, a basin of water, and a folded blanket waited. "You can stay here," she said. "You'll be safe." He hesitated. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You didn't," she replied gently. "You reminded us what we forgot." Later, as Eli washed the soot from his face, he caught his reflection in the water, human eyes staring back in a room that wasn't human at all. For the first time in years, he didn't feel completely alone. Outside, rumors spread through the shelter about the boy who gave warmth to the enemy. Some called him foolish, others called him hope. 2 days later, the quiet inside the shelter fractured. Whispers traveled faster than sound. The human boy had become a story, one the higher command could no longer ignore. Anara stood in the council chamber, its walls pulsing faintly with the bioluminescent veins that powered the underground base. Across from her sat 3 elders, faces cold and unmoving. At her side stood Eli, small but steady, his bare feet pressed against the shimmering floor. The oldest counselor spoke first. "Lady Voss, you defied orders. You brought a human into Lyrian territory. Do you understand the danger?" "I understand, Mercy," Anara replied calmly. "Without him, my children would be dead." "Compassion," the elder hissed, "has no place in war." Eli's hands tightened into fists, but he said nothing. He didn't understand all their words, but he knew that tone, the same one soldiers used before pulling triggers. Anara stepped closer. "Then perhaps that is why the war never ends." Silence filled the chamber. One of the younger counselors shifted uneasily. "The humans began this conflict. Why protect one of them?" Anara looked down at Eli. "Because he didn't begin it. He ended something else. Fear." That single sentence seemed to hang in the air, fragile but unbreakable. When the meeting ended, Anara was dismissed with a warning. "Keep him contained. The people will not accept this. Experiment of peace." Outside, Eli walked beside her quietly. "They don't like me, do they?" he asked, voice small but honest. She hesitated, then said softly, "They're afraid." Sometimes fear sounds like hate. That night, as the shelter settled into uneasy sleep, Anara watched the boy from her doorway. He lay curled under a fresh blanket, one her people had made for him. His breathing was slow, peaceful. For the first time, her twins slept without crying, their tiny hands clutching the edge of that same blanket. Commander Kor entered quietly. "You risk everything for that boy," he said. Anara's gaze stayed on Eli. "No," she whispered. He risked everything for us. Outside, in the corridors, unseen eyes watched through flickering monitors. Someone had taken notice, and not kindly. The next morning arrived with uneasy calm. The shelter buzzed with activity. Engineers checking power lines, medics tending to wounded refugees. Yet something in the air felt different. Like the moment before thunder, Eli wandered the corridors, curious about everything. The walls shimmered faintly with pulses of blue light, almost alive. He passed groups of soldiers who stopped talking as he neared. Some stared with curiosity, others with open hostility. Still, he tried to smile at everyone. Most didn't smile back. When he reached the nursery, Anara was already there, feeding her twins. She looked up as he entered, her expression softening instantly. "Good morning, Eli," he grinned shyly. "They slept all night. Maybe they like my blanket more than me." Her laughter was quiet, genuine, a sound the shelter hadn't heard in weeks. "Maybe they just like knowing you're nearby," she said. For a moment, everything felt almost normal. A mother, her children, and a boy who had no one, creating a small family in the middle of a war. But normal never lasted long here. The door hissed open. Commander Kor stepped inside, his face set in grim lines. "Lady Voss," he said, voice low. "You need to see this." Anara followed him to the command room. The screens displayed intercepted transmissions, encrypted human and Lyrian signals, both carrying the same strange frequency. Kor magnified the data. "These aren't ours," he said. "Someone's feeding both sides." "The same information," Anara frowned. "To what end?" "To keep the fighting alive," Kor replied. "Someone profits from it." Her stomach turned cold. Before she could respond, the lights flickered, then dimmed. Alarms shrieked. Explosions thundered above them, shaking the walls. The guards rushed to their stations. Through the chaos, Anara heard a child's voice cry out, "Anara!" Eli, still in the nursery, she ran. Smoke filled the hallway, the floor trembling beneath her feet. She found him crouched by the twins, shielding them with his body, just as he had on that first night. When she knelt beside him, he looked up, terrified, but unbroken. "They're scared," he whispered. Anara gathered them all close, her voice trembling. "So am I, Eli, but we'll keep each other safe." Just like before, outside, the walls rumbled again, and the real battle for truth was about to begin.